Good evening, everyone. I'm Ankit, and you're watching the Indian Express analysis, which goes live every day at 4 p.m. on StudyIQ IAS English channel. Today is 30th of April, and we are going to discuss important news and articles that have appeared in the newspaper. We'll start our today's discussion by understanding Navy's new Rafale-M aircraft. Now, I understand I've already covered Rafale-M aircraft last week itself, so I'm going to just look over the important features. But in addition to that, if you look at the article today, it is quite detailed on how Indian Navy should operate its aircraft, which is known as naval aviation. So we are going to go into detail in naval aviation. I've also attached the slides that I've given in the last week's session, so that the entire slide for today will cover everything related to Rafale-M aircrafts. Understood? So we are going to discuss in detail about how Indian Navy want to project its power going forward. This is particularly relevant from GS paper 3 perspective, that is the Indian security, right? Then in the second article, we'll be again talking about the Golconda Blue diamond, because this Golconda Blue diamond is expected to be auctioned quite soon, and that is why this diamond was actually mined in India, that is in province of Golconda. So that is why it becomes important. So we'll understand the history behind the diamond mining in India, and also we'll try to cover important aspects about the diamond from science and tech perspective, right? So that is why this article again relevant from GS paper 3, but from point of view of science and technology, and also some from the point of view of GS paper 1 that deals with Indian modern history, right? Then in the third article, we'll be understanding emission intensity targets. Now, I've taken the article from yesterday's newspaper, which talked about emission intensity targets, as government has brought a new draft rules. Now, earlier yesterday when I was reading that article, I thought draft rules is something which is expected to change in future, so why cover it right now? But then upon reading it today, I realized that I'll tell you something about emission intensity targets. What is emission intensity, and how does or why does government wants to set emission intensity targets for different kind of, particularly those industries which are highly emitting in nature, right? So we are going to cover everything in detail from GS paper 3 perspective, particularly from environmental point of view, right? Then in the fourth article, we'll be understanding the India's military expenditure, because India's military expenditure is in focus because of its ongoing tension with Pakistan after the Pahalgam attack, which led to death of as many as more than 24 innocent Indian and foreign civilians. Most of them, they were killed on the basis of their religion. That is why this focus on India's military expenditure will be the subject of our today's discussion, and we have borrowed the discussion from a report passed by SIPRI. SIPRI is an institute which I'll tell you about today. Now, in the fifth article, we'll be understanding about a species of apes known as bonobos. Now, why is bonobos in news? Because there was this study where it was published about bonobos, saying that these are primarily female-led societies or female-led animals. So how is these animals different from other kind of apes, from human beings? All of this we are going to cover in our today's discussion. And in the last article, if the time permits, we are going to cover about a critically endangered species, that is red-crowned roof turtle, because red-crowned roof turtle were introduced in a particular wildlife sanctuary in the western part of Uttar Pradesh, that is Hastinapur Wildlife Sanctuary. Now this is a critically endangered species, so automatically it becomes important from our exam. So if the time allows, we will cover it today. Otherwise, rest assured, I'll cover it tomorrow, need not worry. What I'll not do is to fasten the session so as to complete all those articles, and so that you do not miss out on anything. I won't do that. I will make sure to cover everything accordingly, so that you understand each and everything that I cover in our session, okay? That is my priority, not the large coverage, but rather good coverage. Now the session or the notes for the session will be available on my Telegram channel ATS Live. So if you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, please do so. I upload important news and articles, links, also the notes for everyday session. So this is the channel that you need to subscribe. ATS Live is the channel, okay? Now let us start our today's discussion. Sir, is this class good for SSC CGL exam for current affairs? Yes, very good actually. Geeta, good evening. Baga, Augustine, Yashi, Rishi, Bharat Mata ki Jai, Yashi, Rishi, sorry, Saurav, Priyalatta, Bhanu, good evening everyone. Now, I've already talked about the important features of Rafale-M jets in the last week's session. If you haven't watched it already, need not worry. I will cover, or I'll rather revise that everything today. And I've provided all of the notes from last week and today's updated notes from this article also in our today's notes only. So need not worry about anything left out. Now, why are we covering this news article? Because this article beautifully, which is written by a former Navy officer, he summarizes why a big growing country like India needs a big navy, and also that navy does not mean having ships, but that navy should also include many kinds of different aircrafts, including fighter aircrafts, so as to allow our Indian navy to project its power to larger distances from Indian coast. So that is why our big and large navy, particularly a navy known for its blue water capabilities, is essential for India. And this is the broader theme of today's article, borrowing from the context of Navy's procurement of new Rafale aircrafts. So this is the context also, that India and France on Monday signed a $7.4 billion deal, which approximately in Indian currency amounts to 63,000 crore rupees, for government to government procurement of 26 Rafale marine version of the aircrafts for Indian Navy. And if you can recall, in 2021 also India purchased 36 Rafale aircrafts for Indian Air Force. So this is in addition to that, 26 additional aircrafts has been procured in addition to the aircrafts already with Indian Air Force, but this time it has been procured for Indian Navy. Understand? So this is the context of our today's discussion. I told you these aircrafts are expected to be operated on India's newest aircraft carrier, that is INS Arihant, which is an indigenous aircraft carrier manufactured in India. Now this is approximately a 37,000 ton aircraft carrier, and on this beautiful deck you'd see in future the aircrafts like Rafale-M would operate. Now Rafale-M has been procured by Indian Navy, particularly after a competition which happened between American F-18 and Rafale-M aircraft. Now, because of its good technology and also with the existence of an already existing fleet with Indian Air Force, Navy decided to go with the marine versions of the Rafale aircraft. Now, this is the capability of the aircraft that has been given in today's article. Let me summarize it quickly. It has an omni-role capability, that it is expected to play a different kind of a combat role. It can provide air superiority and also air defenses. Air superiority means other aircrafts of the other air forces or other navies won't be able to dominate the Indian airspace where the Rafales would operate. So that means if Rafales would operate on a particular air sector, that means they would dominate the entire sector. And also it can provide significant air defenses for the ships of the Indian Navy and also for the bases of the Indian Navy. In addition to that, it can provide close air support, in-depth strike, reconnaissance and anti-ship mission, which is quite essential for any navy to have that kind of capability. Also, it can carry nuclear missiles, so that is why it is also an important component of Navy's nuclear deterrence, because when an aircraft of the Indian Navy would be able to carry nuclear missiles, automatically it will increase the stature and also the power capabilities of any navy. Further, it has a reinforced undercarriage, which means the kind of aircrafts which operate on a ship or for naval capabilities, they need to have significant higher amount of strength as compared to the aircrafts which are capable to be landing on the land or the normal airports, because they are subjected to huge amount of stresses whenever they are being launched from the ship or they are being landed into the ship. So their structure or the body as a whole requires several increased reinforcements, and that is why it has been provided. It also has an arresting hook which allows it to land it on a particular aircraft carrier, because whenever a plane is landing on the aircraft carrier, the engine has to be gone full thrust, because in case it is not able to land, it can take off significantly. Now the hook, what it does is the hook of the aircraft, it gets attached to a harness in the aircraft carrier, and this harness actually pulls the aircraft to the surface of aircraft carrier. So that is why whenever this instances of landing and taking off is happening, the aircraft is under significant amount of physical stress. So you need reinforced body structure of the aircraft also, and it has multi-sensor data fusion, which means it can operate regarding different kind of anti-submarines, anti-ship missiles, everything. It will be on board of the Rafale aircrafts. Reread this after I upload the notes on the Telegram channel after the session. Now these are the capabilities of Rafale-M aircraft. I've already provided you with that. It is manufactured by a French company known as Dassault Aviation. Dassault Aviation also have manufactured Mirage 2000 aircraft, which also is operated by the Indian Air Force. This is a 4.5 generation fighter aircraft with advanced capabilities. Right. So what are the capabilities? I've already covered it. Please revise it again. Now, the differences between Air Force Rafale and the Navy Rafale, you understand it has a heavier airframe. Why I told you? Because it needs additional reinforcements for naval operations so that it can land, it can take off from the aircraft carrier. It needs a different kind of a radar system which allows it to operate in a marine environment, so that it can not just detect the enemy ships, but it can also detect enemy submarines which are underwater. But it also shares significant features with the Air Force Rafales, that is the amount of missiles, armaments, the cost efficiency when it comes to maintenance, spare parts, etc. All of this is shared with the Indian Air Force aircraft. Now, what is naval aviation? This is the newest addition in our today's class. Now, this article in general talks about naval aviation. Naval aviation, big navies across the world, they have significant amount of aircrafts with them. It also includes logistical aircrafts or goods carrying aircrafts. It includes fighter aircrafts, and it also includes various helicopters also. These naval assets or the air assets of the navies, they perform various tasks that operate from warships and also from the land bases to support naval operations. Now, it includes specialized reinforcements or modifications to the usual aircraft to meet the unique demands of carrier operations and small decks, such as short takeoffs and arrested landing capabilities, roles such as air-to-air combat, surface and submarine attack, maritime reconnaissance, search and rescue, and logistical support. All of this is required by Navy. So, the aircraft must be modified to suit this requirement. Particularly, the most important requirement is to support or make it enable to be operated from aircraft carriers, right? So, this is why a big navy needs a naval aviation sector also. Now, what is the role of naval aviation? First, it provides fleet air defenses. So, suppose in a aircraft carrier fleet, there is not just one aircraft carrier ship. Rather, there are slew of ships, that is cruisers, frigates, destroyers, everything is there in a fleet of an aircraft carrier. So, you also need to protect these fleet of ships from enemy attacks. So, for that, the aircraft, particularly the fighter aircrafts of the navies, play a very important role. So, it provides aircraft air cover for naval forces beyond the reach of land-based aircraft. It provides strategic power projection, because you understand essentially what is an aircraft carrier. It is a movable airport. So, you can actually deploy the aircraft carrier anywhere in the world and allow your navy and fighter aircrafts to operate from that airbase, right? So, this is a very huge capability, and only the countries that have aircraft carriers have that kind of capability. So, that is why it helps the navy to project its power more strategically. Any problem that might occur for India's defenses, the aircraft carrier is a counter to it. Also, these can actually participate in anti-surface warfare, which can attack enemy ships with air launch missiles. So, this is also what an important component. Suppose that ship which might be a threat to your interest is actually hundreds of kilometers away. So, actually no missiles on the normal ship would be able to attack those aircraft, but when you launch these aircraft from the aircraft carrier, they can go and destroy these ships which might pose a threat to India. Also, they can support amphibious warfare. What if you are actually going to invade any country and you are required to send your army? So, actually these aircrafts can support the invading armies whenever they are going to attack particular country. Also, it can mine the countermeasures, which means many navies, what they do near their strategic air bases and their naval ports, what they do is they lie down several mines so as to counter any ship and submarine from entering into the area. So, these aircrafts also should need to have the ability to deploy these mine countermeasures so as to detect and clear enemy mines in the waters, which might be detrimental to your own ships and submarines, right? So, these are the roles that any naval aviation needs to play, and Rafale actually adds to that capability for India. Now, why does India need aircraft carrier? This was a debate I was actually involved in yesterday. I was discussing something about Rafale-M aircraft with a friend I know, and he asked, why does India needs to have so many aircraft carriers? India currently have 2 aircraft carriers, that is INS Vikramaditya, which it procured from Russia, and INS Vikramaditya, which is manufactured indigenously, and it was commissioned in 2022. Now, the debate that I was having with my friend, it was why India needs to have aircraft carriers, especially in an age where drones can actually threaten the existence of aircraft carrier. So, what I added to it, that aircraft carriers are not just mere ships. These are essentially your air bases which can have the ability to travel anywhere. Also, in addition to the economic rationale, you need to understand that Indian Navy in general wants to become the most dominating naval force in the Indian Ocean region. So you think you can dominate the entire Indian Ocean region, which is so huge, by just normal and destroyer and other naval ships and aircrafts? No, you need to have the capability where you are having more than one aircraft carrier which can be deployed anywhere so as to tackle any threat that might emerge for India. So that is why India needs aircraft carriers for many reasons. First is for ensuring strategic deterrence. What is strategic deterrence? Suppose if any foreign navy, supposedly China, it is threatening India's sovereignty and integrity. So they might be aware that India has two aircraft carriers which have good aircrafts like Rafale-M and MiG-29 on it. So it can actually destroy those aircrafts also. So this might actually deter our enemy to attack India or Indian interest. Also, it helps navies to project its power to a much larger distance, thereby allowing it to have the ability of blue water navy. Blue water navy is actually the navy that can operate much further away from its own coastlines, and only those navies which have big ships like aircraft carriers, they can be called as a blue water navy, which can operate thousands of kilometers away from its coastline. For example, the aircraft carriers of United States, they can operate even in Asia. Understand how far is US away from Asia, and that is an example of how blue water navy operates. So imagine if Indian aircraft carrier is traveling to the Mediterranean region, what would be the impact of it? So this is what a blue water navy capability is. Similarly, we also need to protect our maritime interest, particularly the islands of Andaman and Nicobar, also the Lakshadweep. So in order to protect these maritime interests that are located thousands of kilometers away from Indian coastline, we need to have a significant deterrence capabilities with these aircraft providers. Also, having more than one aircraft means that your navy is on a continuous operational readiness. Suppose if one of these two aircrafts is currently undergoing in maintenance, so that means you're not without an aircraft carrier. You are having at least one aircraft carrier in the naval waters so that you can actually tackle with any threat, and also it can play a huge non-military role. Suppose if there, God forbid, if a disaster happens in the Indian Ocean region, so you can actually send these ships to play a role of humanitarian and disaster relief work, right? So these are the roles traditionally naval ships also play that are way beyond its naval and fighting requirements. So these are how having more than one aircraft give us these kind of capabilities which otherwise would not have happened in India. Understand? Good evening, Cut Paste. Good evening, Midula. Good evening, Shushmita. Long time, Shushmita. Now, why induction of Rafale-M is so important for Indian Navy? Now, over the years, India has had in total 4 aircraft carriers. Earlier, India had INS Vikrant and INS Virat, which it had procured from Great Britain. After these two were retired, India procured INS Vikramaditya, and the new indigenous aircraft carrier was also named as INS Vikrant. So in total, India had 4 aircraft carriers up till now, and over that aircraft carriers, India has operated many different kinds of aircrafts, be it Seahawks, Elysius, Sea Harriers, and at present India operates a very capable MiG-29Ks, which are actually 4th generation aircrafts, Russian based aircrafts, right? Now country is also developing its own twin engine deck based fighter, which is likely to be operationalized only in last decade. So we actually needed a good advanced fighter jet that could have been operated on the Indian aircraft carriers right now. So for that purposes, we have procured 26 Rafale-M jet, which is a 4.5 generation aircraft, therefore making it a more potent aircraft from MiG-29K, and therefore it will augment, it will not replace the existing MiG-29K fleet. So both of these will operate simultaneously from the decks of Indian aircraft carrier. Now also the induction of Rafale-M is very important for Indian Navy, first of all because these aircrafts will share many of the spare parts with IF Rafales. Therefore, it will allow our Indian Navy to have the scope of interoperability and joint training, where we can train the pilots of Indian Navy with the pilots of Indian Air Force, because Indian Air Force is normally operating the Rafale aircraft for quite some time now, and therefore they can teach one or two things to the Indian naval aviators. Also, it is very essential for maintenance and safe practices of these assets so that the best practices are shared between these two organizations. Also, induction of this very capable aircraft in coming years will be a shot in arm for Indian Armed Forces, where continued and enhanced combat capabilities of not just Air Force or not just Navy but the entire Indian Armed Forces will happen, because they are operating such huge technologically capable aircrafts. So this is the advantage that India will have after operating the MiG-29 aircraft. Now, these I have explained. These are some of the most critical sea lanes that are very close to Indian coastlines. These are Strait of Hormuz in the Middle East, Gulf of Aden and Bab el-Mandeb also in the Middle East, Strait of Malacca, Sunda and Lombok Strait in the Southeast Asian region, as well as very close to India, Lakshadweep, Chagos Gap, and security of all these critical sea lanes is very important. So, Indian Navy should have the ability to operate in this entire theater, which it will have after 2 aircraft carriers which will have good fighter jets on them. So, this is how India needs to project its power to a larger distances. Now, you understand these are not an replacement of TED-BF aircraft. We are already going to develop a new aircraft for our aircraft carriers, but till now we need something that could be operated on our aircraft carriers. So, that is why we have procured Rafale-M aircraft. This is not a setback for indigenization, rather it is a step before indigenization. Now, I have already discussed this. I will upload entire notes in our today's notes. Do not worry. Which of the following is the best description of INS Vikramaditya? That was in news. I have curated this question very similar to the one that appeared in 2016 on INS Ashtradharani. So, please tell me the correct answer to this question. Yashi says A, Bhanu says D. Good evening, Chandrasekhar. Pranam. Well, none of you are right. You know what? The INS Vikramaditya and INS Vikrant both are diesel powered aircraft carrier. India does not have a nuclear powered aircraft carrier. There are only 2 countries who are operating currently, 3 countries who are operating currently nuclear powered aircraft carrier. These are UK, France and US. I'm not sure about UK, but France and US, they definitely operate a nuclear powered aircraft carrier. So that is why I asked this question. Now let us move to the next article of the day. Now you will Google it. How is it powered? I know it is diesel powered. Good evening, Shushmita. Another Shushmita has come. Now, next article again on the explained page, it talks about the story of Golconda Blue, which is this very famous diamond that was mined in India. Now, why is this Golconda Blue is in news? Because Golconda Blue, which was once owned by Indian royalty, is going to be auctioned by a company based in Geneva, Switzerland. Now, this Golconda Blue diamond has a very deep historical significance for India, and it originated in India, so that is why it's important. It was with many important royal houses of India, that is of Indore and Baroda. So please let me know which of the royal houses were there in Indore and Baroda. These were part of Maratha confederacy. So please tell me quickly. Now, what is Golconda Blue? Now, Golconda Blue is a 23.24 carat diamond. Now, more is the carat of the diamond, higher is its price, right? It is a fancy vivid blue colored diamond known for its exceptional clarity and rich blue hue color. Now, it is one of the rarest and most valuable diamonds globally. And why is it famous particularly for India? Because it was mined in the Golconda region, which in present day it lies in the Telangana state. Now, Golconda mines is also famous for other famous diamonds, be it Kohinoor or the pale pink Darya-e-Noor diamond. Now, historically, this Golconda Blue diamond was owned by royal families of Indore, that was Holkars, and Baroda, that was ruled by Gaikwads. What are important other kingdoms that were there in Maratha confederacy? Please let me know in the comment section. See, there were 5 primary kingdoms with the Maratha primacy. I have already told you Indore and Baroda. What are the others? Please let me know. Nagpur, Gwalior and Pune. Please let me know which was ruled by which one of the following dynasties. Now, history of gold mining in India. So there might be a question that which kind of a traveler has actually talked about gold mining in India. So that is why I'm going to cover this. Now, West's enduring fascination with diamond, it only began after the Alexander the Great, who actually invaded very close to India. He went back taking diamonds from India to Europe, and then diamonds became famous in Europe. Now, Venetian traveler to India, Marco Polo, who wrote in 1292 that no country except India produced diamonds, and those that were brought in the part of Europe, they were only brought after they were refused by Indian people. And India actually possessed all the important treasures in the world back in 1292. So, Venetian traveler Marco Polo has actually talked about Indian diamonds. Also, a British historian known as Jack Ogden, he wrote in that in 1600s, India was by far the most important center when it came to sourcing of diamonds for Mediterranean European countries. Now, it is difficult to ascertain the exact date where Golconda trade began, but there are records of Chinese, Filipino, Arab and Jewish traders who were looking for or who was looking towards India to procure these kind of gems. Bhosles of Nagpur, Scindias of Ujjain nahi, Gwalior, and Indore Holkars, Peshwas of Pune and Bhosles of Nagpur. Yes, you're correct. So you're paying attention. Good. Now, another French merchant, that was Jean Baptiste Tavernier, he also wrote that diamond mining in the Golconda district, it grew at an explosive rate in mid 17th century, and a Kollur mine, which was a part of Golconda district, there it employed 60,000 laborers to dig those diamonds. Also, another French traveler, John de Thevant, he wrote that there was no uniformity in diamond prices, and at that time price of diamond was fixed by the king itself, because king itself or the state itself had the monopoly over mining. There were no private sector back then. Now, Indian diamond markets, it included Ahmedabad and Goa, and although stone were mined in various places like Panna Diamond Belt in Madhya Pradesh, Golconda remained the major trading center, which has been mentioned by travelers throughout the history. So this is history of diamond mining in India. I've already told you the important travelers and historians who have wrote about Indian diamond mining. Now let's see few of the important properties of diamond. Diamond are basically an allotrope of carbon, which are having covalent bond. Sorry, let me write the spelling correctly. Covalent bond. Now here, four atoms of carbon, they are actually attached to a atom of carbon with this covalent bond, which gives it such a rigid structure. That is, diamond is the hardest element, that man-made naturally occurring element that we know. Now, these are manufactured in volcanic landforms like dikes and sill, and these happen in various kind of deposits like alluvium deposits and the rivers wala deposit. Usko kya bolte hain? I'm forgetting the name. Sorry. The alluvium deposit and also igneous deposit. Sorry. Right, so this is how I have a brain fade. So diamonds are actually available in Earth's mantle, which is the middle portion of the Earth's crust, and it is brought to the surface through volcanic activity. These usually occur in these kind of deposits, that is alluvial and igneous deposit. And the most important part that you have to remember, that it forms a covalent bond with other atoms of carbon. That is why it gives such a hard or a rigid structure to the diamond structure, and that is why diamond is the most hardest natural occurring substances that we know. Now, because of its hard nature, it is used in jewelry but also in industrial cutting tools and polishing because of its hardness. Now, globally, the leading producers of diamond is Russia, followed by Botswana, Canada, Angola and DRC Congo. Where is the largest reserve? Here also the largest reserve is present with Russia, followed by Botswana, DRC Congo, Angola and South Africa. Now, mining activities in India currently, the highest mining activity happens in Madhya Pradesh, both in terms of production and reserve, whereas other areas known for diamond industries are Vajrakur Kimberlite Pipe, which is located in Anantapur of Andhra, and Krishna River Basin also in Andhra Pradesh. Surat, on the other hand, does not have a diamond mining industry. Rather, Surat, it has a diamond polishing industry, which is world famous. You might have already known it. Arkwanshi, good evening. I hope I have pronounced your name correctly. Now, there is another few terms that you need to know. One is Kimberley Process. Now, you may have heard about the term known as blood diamond. There was also a very famous movie starring Leonardo DiCaprio about it. Blood diamond are actually the diamonds which are found or extracted from the conflict regions, and companies are not extracting those mines. Rather, the non-state actors or the organized crime groups, they are extracting that mines or diamonds from the mines, and they are selling these diamonds and using the funds that they are procuring for their ongoing civil war and their violence activities. So globally, there is a discourse on an agreement that we need not procure these blood diamond mines, because our procuring and buying these diamonds will actually prolong the civil war that happens in the African nation. So as to eliminate these blood diamonds to be used in global trade of diamonds, there is a Kimberley process that actually certifies that this particular diamond that we are going to buy in the market is not actually a blood diamond. And this Kimberley process, it works in the partnership with United Nations. Now globally, these days the more demand is there for gold, because the fungibility of gold is very important as compared to diamond. So globally, the demand for diamond right now is less as compared to, say, 100 or thousands of years ago. Similarly, lab grown diamonds have emerged as a cheaper and more ethical alternative. So this has also contributed to reduction in the global demand for diamond, particularly for jewelry purposes. Now let's see if you are able to solve this particular question quickly. Well, diamond is an allotrope of carbon known for its extreme hardness and high melting point, correct? Major diamond deposits occur in igneous rock of ultra basic composition and secondary alluvial deposits. This is also correct. India is the largest producer of rough diamond in the world, with Panna belt in Madhya Pradesh as the top diamond site. This is incorrect. Panna belt actually is correct, but it is not the largest producer of rough diamond. It is largest polisher of the rough diamond. So third statement incorrect. First and two are right. So option A is right. Yes, Bhanu, Amar, Yashi, Baga, Kamlesh, Shushmita, Rishi, Geeta, Priyalata, all of you are right. Now, this diamond is actually a part of science and tech syllabus, but this article was so good that it also dealt with historical aspects of diamond, so that is why I covered it. Now, usually important components or important allotropes of carbon like graphite, like diamond, we cover it in our science and tech classes. Now, science and tech classes are available in our foundation batches, which are also known as P2I batches. Right now, today onwards, as of 30th of April, today is the last date if you want to take admission for the April morning batch. This will close today itself, so please do not forget to take admissions. How to take admissions? Let me tell you that. What you need to do, go to our StudyIQ website, click on this tile. As soon as our website opens, this will be the screen that you will be seeing. What you need to do is create an account, go to this and click Explore Courses. Once you click on Explore Courses, here you will be provided an option for which kind of language do you want your teaching to be in it. Suppose if you're not comfortable in Hindi, it's okay. We also provide you with English exclusive batches where you can get here by clicking UPSC IS English. Click on this first tile which says the Achievers Carnival is going on right now, so you can get the diamond badge for 39,499. But let me tell you a way where you can get discount even on this amount by using the code which must be flashing on the bottom half of your screen, that is ATS Live. How to apply the code? Let me tell you right now. Click on add promo code. Once you click on add promo code, you can enter the keywords called as ATS Live and click on apply. When you click on apply, you see the discount for 7,000 is applicable, and the diamond batch for today it is available for 32,499. It will increase from tomorrow onwards. Similarly, platinum is available at 27,500 and gold is available at 16,999. Please make sure to click on these tiles and pick the courses accordingly. My personal recommendation to you is to take diamond batches, because all the benefits that are available on our StudyIQ platform, as you can see from this chart, is available for diamond batches. Okay. Now let us move to another article of the day. This actually appeared in yesterday's newspaper, and it talks about a rule that has been brought by Indian government for its carbon credit trading system. Now, government has notified its draft rules introducing targets for reducing greenhouse gas emissions by obligated entities which are there in energy intensive sectors and industries. What are these sectors and industries? We'll look into it, need not worry. Now, this draft greenhouse gas emission intensity target rules, it is notified by Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, and it puts in place a compliance mechanism as per the provisions of India's carbon credit trading scheme. What is carbon credit? How it operates? I've already told you this. Need not worry if you do not get it. I will also summarize it today. Now, the draft rules, as these are draft rules, these are open for people and other stakeholders to submit their objections and suggestions, and for that 60-day timeline has been given by government so that negotiation between other stakeholders and government can happen over these draft rules. So we are not going into detail each and every provision about the draft rules. I'll summarize what these draft rules are about, and majorly we'll talk about these greenhouse gas emission intensity, what this term actually means. Now, first, let me tell you, because these rules were brought as a part of carbon credit trading scheme. Now, carbon credit trading scheme, it was launched by Indian government as a framework for trading of carbon credits. How carbon credits work? Suppose this is a company A, company B and company C. All of these are companies that manufacture steel, right? So, steel manufacturing is a greenhouse gas emission intensive industry. So, suppose government wants these industries to reduce their greenhouse gases. So, what government will do? Basis on their own capacity, suppose these three companies have equal capacities, okay? So, government will say that these companies annually, they can only emit 100 tons of carbon dioxide equivalent each. So, this is the target government has given to all these three companies, that they can emit maximum of this much amount of greenhouse gases. So, suppose company A emits 120 tons of carbon dioxide equivalent, company B emits 80 tons and company C emits say 70 tons. So, what these companies had target of 100 tons, so they are emitting 20 tons more, they are emitting 20 tons less, and this is emitting 30 tons less. Now, this company it is emitting excessive carbon dioxide as compared to its target. So, what it can do? It can procure the carbon credits from these two companies because they are emitting less than what is required. Now, to procure carbon credits, these companies will provide them with money for their each carbon credit, okay? So, this is how carbon credit trading scheme works. Suppose if I am imposing different kind of capacity restrictions on how to emit greenhouse gases, and if a company exceeds its target, it can compensate for it by buying carbon credits from the market. Similarly, as these companies are emitting less, they can actually get money for their carbon credits which they are selling it to other companies. So, this is how carbon credit works. Any doubt? Sorry, any doubt? Now, the trading of these carbon credits, it happens over Indian carbon market platform, and the company or the organization looking after this trading is Bureau of Energy Efficiency, which is a part of Ministry of Power. Now, how it incentivizes carbon trading? Because industries with cleaner technologies, they can earn and trade carbon credits for profit, and others who are actually emitting more, they can gradually transition by buying credits, and later on they can implement less emitting technologies. Any doubts on how carbon credit works? No, right. Now, what are greenhouse gases? Now, whenever during a manufacturing process or any process forever, you are emitting any kind of gas that has a potential to trap heat in it, that is called as greenhouse gas. Because these gases, whenever they are there in the atmosphere and whenever they trap heat, they can actually create what is known as a greenhouse gas effect. Now, most abundant of greenhouse gases, these are water vapor, carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide, oxygen, and other greenhouses gases which are synthetic fluorinated gases used mostly for refrigeration and air conditioning purposes. These are CFCs or chlorofluorocarbons or hydrochlorofluorocarbons or HCFCs, right? So, we need to control these greenhouse gases. Now, any industry, what kind of gases it is emitting, this can be attributed by a factor known as greenhouse gas emissions intensity or GEI. It is the amount of greenhouse gas that is emitted per unit product output. So for example, the amount of greenhouse gases that are released in production of say 1 ton of cement, 1 ton of steel, 1 ton of aluminium or paper, that is known as GEI of that particular industry. Now this draft rule, it defines GEI as greenhouse gas emission intensity in the unit of tons carbon dioxide equivalent, which is a standard unit used to measure the impact of all greenhouse gas based on their potential to warm planet. Understand? So the unit of emissions is per ton of carbon dioxide equivalent. So this is how the targets are set on individual countries or companies. Now the rules that have been passed by government, it states that the baseline for emission defining would be 23-24, and they are required to gradually reduce their emissions for the year 25-26 and 26-27 as a part of mechanism of the carbon credit trading scheme of Government of India. Now GHG intensity reduction targets and benchmark have been set for high energy intensive sectors like aluminium, chloralkali, pulp, paper, cement industries, and rules they also lay down the mechanisms of how the industry need to comply with the provision, and if they fail to comply with the provision of the government, they will be subjected to penalties for their failure. So these are what the rules are talking about, that they have set a baseline emission, that after this baseline you need to reduce gradually your emission of the greenhouse gases, and if you fail to do so, we will penalize you. Similarly, GEI targets. And why are we setting such targets for industries? Now, these targets will actually push industries towards a low carbon growth, and industries, in order to reduce their greenhouse gases, they will adopt cleaner fuels like switching from coal to biomass or to natural gas. They will start energy efficient manufacturing processes, and not just for industries, it will also benefit India as a country, because India has promised in its commitment towards Paris Agreement that it will reduce its emission intensity of GDP by 45% compared to 2005 levels, and they will do so by 2030. So to meet these targets, we need to reduce the overall greenhouse gas emissions in our economy, be it different industries. So that is why we are doing it. Any doubts up till now? Any doubts? Now industries, as the government is setting the targets, industries who are required to follow these targets, they will clearly know how much they need to cut emissions, and industries who are achieving the reductions already, they can earn carbon credits and they can sell their carbon credits to other industries who are not able to meet their own obligation. So this actually provides a market mechanism so that the overall reduction is intensified and incentivized by providing monetary benefits to companies who are actually reducing their greenhouse gas emissions. Understand? Now let us move to another article. This article actually appeared in the website. I am surprised this did not appear in the newspaper of the Indian Express. Now it is a very important article actually, because in line with the current tensions between India and Pakistan, this article becomes important, and it states that in 2024, India's military expenditure was nearly 9 times that of Pakistan. Right. Now this report is actually a report by Stockholm Institute for Peace and Research Institute, known as SIPRI. It says that India's military spending was nearly 9 times that of Pakistan. It ranks various countries, and you can see in terms of rank, India is here at the 5th spot after US, China, Russia and Germany, and Pakistan is at the 35th spot. Right? Now, in this regard, what becomes important is the institute, Stockholm International Peace Research Institute. Now, it was founded in 1996 and it is based in Stockholm. Now, it is globally a renowned institute dedicated to research on conflict, armaments, arms control and disarmament. So, every time you hear about global military spending, most likely it will be done by SIPRI only. Now, it provides critical data and analysis on global security issues. It provides you the detail which country is taking nuclear proliferation, and it also highlights military expenditure and arms trade and its ongoing trends in its yearly book. So these trends and expenditures made by different countries are actually important from our exams perspective. Now let's see what are the biggest spenders of the global military. Now global military spending in 2024 was more than $2,700 billion, and if you take top 5 countries in general, that is US, China, Russia, Germany and India, they accounted for more than half of global spending, that is more than $1,600 billion in just one particular year. Now, globally, there has been a change in how the countries are looking at defense expenditure, particularly countries located in Europe. Earlier, they were not focusing much on defense expenditures, but because of Russia-Ukraine war, because of Trump coming into US or becoming US president, these have actually highlighted to European countries that going forward, they need to spend more on military expenditures. So you'll see the result also. For example, Russia's military expenditure was $149 billion in 2024, which is a 38% increase from last year and double the level it was spending on 2015. Now, in terms of GDP, Russia spending on military 7.1% of its GDP. Now, Ukraine's total military expenditure is $64.7 billion, which is more than 1/3 of its GDP. And in terms of GDP, Ukraine has the largest military burden of any country in 2024. So this is significant detail that you need to remember. Also, what you need to remember is several countries in the Central and Western European region, they are showing also an unprecedented rise in how they are spending on their military. Case in point, Germany's military expenditures, which was not significant, say 10 years back, this has increased by 28% to reach $88.5 billion, making it the biggest spender in the Central and Western Europe and the fourth biggest spender in the world. Similarly, a country like Poland, not very significant geopolitically, but its military spending also has grown by 31% to $38 billion in 2024, which represents 4.2% of Poland's GDP. So this is a global shift towards more military expenditure that we are witnessing, and this is also highlighted by SIPRI report. Now let's talk about India. Now, in terms of its military expenditure, India spent $86.1 billion, but in terms of its GDP, it's just 1.6% of GDP. And most of the experts, they've highlighted India needs to spend at least 2% of its GDP if it were to counter its two effective threats, that is of China and Pakistan. Now, globally, India's rank is 5th in terms of total spending on military. The growth rate was just 1.6% as compared to last year, but when you compare it with Pakistan, India is spending nearly 9 times more than Pakistan. Pakistan is spending how much? $10.2 billion. Okay. Now, also, India is one of the largest importer of arms and ammunition. Irrespective of the fact India is increasing its indigenization efforts, but still India is a significant importer. Yes, are US and nearby countries spending more, seeing Russia as a threat? Yes, and also because going forward, America, especially Donald Trump, has highlighted we are not going to guarantee your expenditures or military security. So please spend, please develop your own military and ensure your own security. Okay. So India is one of the largest supplier, but still India is one of the largest importer of arms and ammunition, and India's largest supplier of arms and ammunition even today remains Russia. But you have to notice that Russia's share in total Indian imports have reduced significantly. It was 72% in 2010-14, it declined to 55% in 2015-19. Now it has declined to just 36%. Now India's was one of the biggest export destinations for both countries like Russia and France, and France's contribution in India's export has increased, and they have emerged as a key supplier because India accounts for 28% of total French arms export, and major Indian arms deal latest with France, as we have already covered, is 26 Rafale-M. Earlier, India had procured 36 Rafale aircraft for Indian Air Force. Earlier, India had procured 6 Scorpion submarines, which were manufactured in India but manufactured by a French company, and India has also agreed to procure 3 more of these submarines as a part of Project 75. So these are the important French platforms that are operated by Indian Armed Forces. So that is why contribution of French has increased, whereas contribution of Russia, though Russia still remains the largest supplier of arms and ammunition to India, it has reduced significantly. It has basically halved from 72 to 36. Remember that. Now let's see if you are able to solve this particular question. पाकिस्तान के साथ पैसे ही नहीं है सर. Well, let me show you the last option also. 1, 2 and 3 is the last option. Okay. Well, India was one of the top 5 military spenders globally in 2024. Correct. France has surpassed Russia to become India's largest supplier during the period 2024. Incorrect. France is although the second largest, but still Russia is the largest. The top 5 military spending countries together accounted for over half of the total globally military expenditures. This is correct. They accounted for 60% of total global military expenditure. So 1 and 3 are correct. Second is not. Option A is the right answer. Bhanu, Shushmita, Amar, Baga, Yashi, Kamlesh, Priyalata. All of you are right. Now let us move to the next article. This talk about the prevalence of behavior among bonobos, which are a species of apes, right? And I have picked up this article from yesterday's newspaper. This is a very beautiful article that you need to know. Now these are the bonobos which we are talking about. These are species of apes. Now, according to a recent study, bonobo societies are female dominated, which is very extremely rare from mammals perspective. So that is why we are going to cover them. What you need to remember that bonobos, which are also called as pygmy chimpanzees, these are part of great ape family and they were the last members to be discovered among these ape families. Earlier they were considered as a subspecies of chimpanzees, but from 1933 onwards they were officially recognized as a separate species. Now bonobos' closest relatives are obviously humans and chimpanzees. Share of humans and chimpanzees in terms of its, give me a minute. Yeah, they account for, in terms of humans and chimpanzees, they share 99% of their DNA with bonobos, right? And the eating pattern of these species are, they are omnivorous, which means they also eat plants and they also eat small animals, okay? So these are omnivorous when it comes to their eating habits. Now, whatever I have told you about any important species and news, we need to understand where they exist, their habitats. We need to know about their habits, and also their protection status. So this theme of important factors that we need to discuss about important species in news, we will also discuss it today. So about habitats, their known habitats are they are endemic to countries of DRC, which is located in central part of Africa, that is Democratic Republic of Congo. And their habits is that they are primarily very social animals because they live in a matriarchal society, which are female-led groups. Females, they form actually alliances and they tend to dominate males. High degree of cooperation and conflict resolution we can see among female chimpanzees, which helps them dominate the overall society of bonobos, and they do so via social bonding. So what we see that they use sexual behaviors for stress relief, for bonding and for conflict mitigation, which is a very unusual thing when it comes to mammals, and these are matriarchal societies. So please remember these facts, okay? Now, in terms of their protection status, these are protected in the IUCN Red List. They are categorized as endangered species. Similarly, in CITES, they are categorized as an Appendix 1 species, which means if their global trade is not controlled, they will become extinct. So that is why, unless unusual circumstances happened, global trade of these species are banned. But as they do not exist in India, so their presence in Wildlife Protection Act is not mentioned. Understood? So this is what you need to remember about bonobos. Now let's see if you are able to solve this particular question. जल्दी बताओ. Well, bonobo social group are typically led by males. Obviously incorrect. I told you they are led by females. They are found in rainforest south of Congo River in DRC. This is correct. Bonobos are strictly carnivorous and do not consume plant matter. Incorrect. I have told you they are omnivorous and they are known for their resolving conflicts through aggression. Again incorrect. They resolve their conflicts through cooperation and not through aggression. So only second statement is right. Rest three are incorrect. So option B is your right answer. Now I have created this question which appeared in 2023 about the behaviors for elephants, right? So see how such questions are important from UPSC's perspective. Right. So now the time is almost 4:55. So it's time. I'll cover the next article in tomorrow's lecture. The notes will be available on my Telegram channel ATS Live. So please download that. I will upload them in some time. So this is all from my side. I will see you again tomorrow at 4 p.m. Until then, please have a very good evening and a good